Yeah, no, I know. It took me took me a while for me to test and everything. I have to go up and down all the time. Yeah, yeah. So like they should have something going on there. Hello, hello, testing one, two, three, testing. I can hear you very well. Yeah, no, they have audio down. They confirm they have audio. They can hear me. You're not hearing what? I'm sorry, Ruben.
Why, could you mute
Mute mine?
yeah, Eric said if you could mute the Zoom.
Test. Yeah. Yes.
Did you put the keys in the bag? The keys in the bag? Oh, Mitchell, I told you not to put the keys.
move for to nominate Nicola Davies.
Is there a second? Thank you, Lori. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, we can move to the ballot. Excellent. Moving forward is the secretary position, and I nominate Lori Rufano. Is there a second? Thank you, Heather. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we can move to the ballot.
Votes unanimous for Lori.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Look forward to continuing to all work together.
Yes.
And next, draw everyone's attention to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the appointment of counsel to the board and the continuation of Shipman and Goodwin. There was also the appointment of the medical advisor for Dr. Christine Mackin to continue in that capacity. Further is the appointment for designation of signatories, which would be
it runs the gamut.
The gamut
depending on who's got it's for activity accounts.
Right, for activities accounts. And then in addition is the appointment of Stephen Cedar of Pullman and Conley as the impartial hearing officer to address matters included but not limited to student expulsion hearings. Is there any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. Is there a second? Thank you, Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up, we have the 24-25 Board of Education calendar. This is the calendar for our meetings moving forward. You'll see that there's just one adjustment from for the joint BOE BOF meeting from the 13th to the 11th. So from that Thursday to the Tuesday, which is the BOF's regularly scheduled meeting. Are there any questions about the calendar? We also moved the budget workshops to the evening.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Really, really helpful.
Is there a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Is there a second? Thank you, Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. And then just under review and discuss, I'd like to just bring everybody's attention to the 24-25 committee assignments and liaisons. If everybody would just, we are carrying, right now we have filled in carrying over from standing committees of last year, but I would invite everybody to take this home and look at it and let me know what your commitments are and what you would like to be involved with. And we'll come back in the new year with a settled list. With that, at 7:08, I move to adjourn the organizational meeting. Thank you, everybody. Several copies of several things going on. Okay, so now at 7:09, I move to open the Thursday, December 5th Wilton Board of Education regular meeting. And that meeting, has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Nicola. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Comments from the public? Are we fully?
As far as I know, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the-
So the public comment, the board has set aside time at the beginning and end of regular meetings for public comments for members of the public to share their views on matters involving the Wilton Public Schools and to help inform the board's decisions on such matters. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to any one subject. For the record, please also give your name and address. The board considers the views of citizens in all its deliberations and welcomes and appreciates public comment. The board listens to public comment thoughtfully and with interest. The board, however, generally does not respond to public comment during board meetings by offering commentary or answering questions. The board also invites commentators and the public to contact the board or the superintendent directly with any specific questions or comments. The board, through the chair and the superintendent, may respond to questions and comments offered during the public comment session or shared directly. And in responding, may also direct members of the public to the appropriate staff member for a response. Are there any comments from the public?
Looks like no.
Seeing none, we will move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda has the minutes of the regular meeting from November 21st and the executive session on November 21st. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you, Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Board chair report. I would just like to welcome everybody back. I hope everybody had a happy and healthy break. I would also just like to thank Eric and Bill and their team. As you can see, hopefully at home, we have a new setup. So our voices should be able to be heard and faces should be able to be seen. And the Zoom is now fully operational. I know it wasn't easy to get all the moving pieces together. So just thank you all. And I hope, if there's feedback from the public watching, feel free to email the BOE directly and let us know, because we want to make sure that it's functional for everybody.
Absolutely. Great, and just a couple more items on that. So if you look around the room, you can see there's a camera in the back, there's 2 here in the front, and then the Zoom cameras in the center of the room, the speakers here, or the microphone is here. There are also speakers installed in the back of the room, which Eric tells me pick up my voice. So people sitting in the back can actually hear me when I speak. So that's also an addition. One of the interesting features, Eric was giving me a roadshow this morning. So in addition to this room being now kind of fully state of the art, there's a control center here. You can see we can control the technology from the table. Students will continue to come and broadcast both via Zoom and channel 78. They'll be working down in the control room. A pretty state-of-the-art setup. And I was interested in our expansion capabilities. So Eric was sharing me if we can finally get some fiber run between Cider Mill and the stadium, we can actually broadcast, games and events from there, from downstairs. We could do the same from Lily if we can get some fiber there. And we'll look at setting up the same capacity for events in the Clune and the Little Theater. So it'll give us it has the opportunity, I should say, to give us some really strong additional broadcasting capabilities in a simple way. So I'll just keep you posted as we're able to kind of build this thing out. So thank you for that. It's taken a while for us to get here, but it's definitely
really
a
great.
step in the right direction. Yeah, for sure.
Really great.
And the fiber has to get run by the utility company?
No, we have fiber. We would run it. It's a project we've been talking about for a number of years. And so it requires some coordination between Parks and Rec, DPW, and us. And so we just have to get everybody together with the equipment to get it done.
As I recall, we approved that money on the Board of Selectmen to do
A
that.
very long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you for letting us know.
I'm
Yes.
surprised it wasn't done. It was many moons ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. That's right. You were,
At least the money's not the problem.
no, that's right. So anyway, moving on. So good
That's
news
one good
and
thing.
some possibilities.
Excellent.
I think, and just thinking about the room arrangement, I shared before, we'll replace the podium and we'll move the podium here for more formal presentations for public comment. That way, the speakers can be seen also on Zoom, just given the location of the camera. Were you going to ask something?
I was just going to say, with the 3 cameras that we have in the 3 spaces, the red light shows the camera that's actually live. So if you look back at that camera, I'm speaking, they just changed to pick me up now that I'm speaking. So that camera's live. So they're able to zoom in and zoom out around the room. So we actually, it gives us the ability to put podiums or presenters in different locations and be able to zoom in on them. So the red light on the camera shows you which camera's active.
Terrific. Great. All right, so good to know. So there you go. Great. So a couple of other things. Earlier today, State Senator CeCe Maher joined high school senior Daniel Babishek, Tammy Thornton from Wilton Go Green, Bill Tomlinson from Chartwells, and several of our high school administrators at a ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate the installation of a second industrial dishwasher here in the district. So we had a ribbon cutting a few weeks ago over at Cider Mill. We just completed the installation here at the high school. And so it's something that we talked about many moons ago, returning
It's a good thing.
back to reusables, right? And walking away from disposable materials in the lunchroom. And so again, this is something that's, been talked about, contemplated, thought, planned, debated for years. And so we're finally here. And so the next step will be to focus on Middlebrook and have a dishwasher installed there at some point in the future. And then we'll have 4 schools up and running, and then we'll just to continue to increase our capability. What was neat about the high school project, Daniel is a budding environmentalist and kind of through his experience at the high school had developed this concern. So kind of unbeknownst to me, he had gone and done some research and reached out to Senator Maher and proposed a grant, and was kind of working with her. She was able to fast track it as the legislative session was closing out last year. So it really kind of stars aligned, and we were able to get it done really quickly. It was great. So congratulations to him and to them. And again, just one more kind of small piece, I think, that is in keeping with the ethos of this town and the school district. So, and
but it carries it on through when they get to college and when they get to the workplace. If they are demanding it, then people will continue to do it.
Yep,
so if we don't start them now, the longer it takes for everyone else to catch up.
Yeah, well said. So, so that's good news. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., our PTAs jointly and the PTSA will be hosting the 2nd annual PTA Reflections Award Ceremony. Last year it was in the Clune. Tomorrow night it'll be here in the Library Learning Commons. And so we'll celebrate some of our student artists who participated in the PTA Reflections contest this year. That's a K-12 program. So if you're available for about an hour, 6 o'clock, please come by. The doors will be open and you'll get to see some great student artwork. And then just the last, this week when the Board of Selectmen met, they approved additional funds to replace the elevator at Cider Mill. This was a project that was, I think, bonded 2 years ago, was delayed for a variety of reasons. The cost escalation, got in the way, and so there was funds available. So that project is good to go and will take place this summer.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you. First up under review and discuss is an update on digital learning, communication task force, and the artificial intelligence task force. So we have Bill and
That's right. We put together a presentation for you of basically covering even more than what you requested. We just wanted to give an update on all things digital learning and information technology. I'll just start off by thanking all of you for having us, and we really appreciate that. And as I'm getting to know some of you more, I'm getting more and more excited about starting here. So I appreciate the time and the attention that you've given me. I just thank my team too. I've worked with some incredible people in the library and through the tech instructional leaders, the webmasters, and Eric and his team are awesome too. Just all the a testament to everything they're doing is all the work they've been putting into getting this particular system working. And again, getting to know these guys and working with them every day has been a total pleasure. So just a quick round of thanks. And of course to Helene, who keeps us all running, Helene Walker, who we couldn't do anything without her. So I just wanted to take a moment to do that and just a brief introduction of myself. Ruth got to know me during the interview process, and I've spoken with some of you, over the last couple of months, just getting to know you. But my background is that I've worked as an IT manager and in marketing before I entered education. I taught middle school and high school English in West Hartford and Simsbury, where I became a department supervisor for English. So I think that helped make me uniquely suited for this job because I am working with the library team, but also with the tech side of things. And ultimately, I want to make a big contribution with my team and I to help to improve technology education here in Wilton. So we're just kind of laying the groundwork for some of those things now. And Fran did such an amazing job before I got here, and all of you worked so well together that I was able to kind of slide in and learn some things, and hopefully we can bring things forward, especially in AI and communications, which are kind of our main topics of discussion. I just really love working with you guys and sharing all the stuff that I've learned and that I wanted to help to contribute. This is a ridiculous image of what ChatGPT thought the AI task force looked like in Wilton. I don't know how much detail you can see, but there's a lot of handless people typing, sometimes on a computer, sometimes in just the thin air, trying to learn more about AI and its role in education. I think we've done more work than apparently these people have, and I can share with you what we've done so far. I started onboarding with the technology ILs and with Fran and with the task force over the summer. We put together a student-facing document, which I'll share with you in a moment, and started to talk about some policy, which I know Kevin's shared with you a little bit, and you've been working on that as well. So that was kind of the groundwork that I was able to get in on. We did have an AI task force meeting in October, in which we decided we want to initiate a magic school and a school AI pilot. And these are two different AI apps that are made for education. I'm not sure how familiar you are with them, but the quick lowdown is that they offer all the privacy protections that we require. And unlike kind of an open-ended model like Gemini or ChatGPT, they're made for student-facing applications. So for example, if you wanted to make some kind of chatbot to help a student plan out an essay, you could devise that and you could set it up so that it would not write the essay for the student. Instead, it would just coach them and ask them questions about things on the rubric, and it could help with proofreading and things like that. Whereas with some of those open-ended type of platforms, you can't necessarily structure something like that for a student. So that's just a really quick example of that. And we're trying to get the pilot going this week. There have been a couple snags, but hopefully this week going into next week, teachers will have access to paid pilot versions for both of those. Because when you don't get the full version, it definitely doesn't work as well as I just described. There's more hiccups and you have to fight with the AI a little bit more to get it to do what you want it to do. So we're going to test that out and ultimately decide which we prefer and make a commitment to probably one of those in terms of what we want to do when the pilot's done. We did add Gemini just a few weeks ago for teachers, and we have that. It was no cost. It was just through Google Suite, so we already had it. And Gemini, if you're not familiar, is basically Google's version of ChatGPT. So, I find that sometimes Gemini does better with some things, and sometimes ChatGPT does better with others. But it's nice that we're able to provide Gemini to the district and to the students. To the teachers free of charge. We're not providing it for the students yet, mainly because Google hasn't worked out all their privacy features yet. But that is something that they've talked about and the state's talked about. So it may be available to students age 13 and up at some point in the future, but just hasn't been all hammered out yet. There's a lot of work going on with that behind the scenes. There's another product called Notebook LM, which we've been exploring a little bit, but we haven't enabled that for teachers yet.
Yeah, and that we're actually, we've applied to be a beta test site for Notebook LM as they release their enterprise version. So we're waiting on to see if we're actually allowed in to the program or not.
I think we should.
I hope.
Yeah. And then just obviously we're trying to put together some PD for teachers as we launch into this pilot. And one thing that, excuse me, that we created was a Google chat where teachers can share best practices and their thoughts and ideas as we kind of learn all this stuff together. We'll through the School AI pilot, for example, there's a whole training program that they have built in so teachers can learn how to use it. They don't have to necessarily start from scratch if they don't have a lot of good familiarity. So we'll be rolling those things out too in the coming weeks and months.
Do Magic School and School AI, do they run on proprietary LLMs?
No, they're both just tied into OpenAI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you'd be hard pressed to know it sometimes because their graphical user interfaces are very different.
Right.
A lot of people kind of say, for better or worse, Magic School looks like it's for elementary school, and School AI looks like it's for secondary. They function similarly in some ways, but what I found through making assignments and all of us practicing using it is that Magic School tends to set up multiple agents, which could guide a student through a process, but they need a little bit more coaching. And then School AI tends to just let you package it all together. Like that essay example, I could just go to one chat agent and it would walk me through it. But I think there's use cases for both. So we really want to get teachers hands-on experience. They don't have the nerfed version. They can figure out which one they think will work best, and then we can make some consensus toward the end of the school year. So that's the rough outline of what we're trying to do so far with AI. And again, I know that some things like the student-facing document might be new, but I know that you guys have seen some things as far as guidelines and policy and things like that. A couple other things we're talking about is the student guidelines, which actually is probably really hard for you to read. So I brought some paper copies. Do you mind just passing that around? Thank you. So we put this together and ran it by the AI task force and made some edits. And students have been seeing this primarily in the LLC classes that they attend, but it's available. So you can kind of introduce them to what AI is about, remind them about the importance of privacy, and give them some guidelines on where, when, and how to use it in class, and always with the teacher's permission. So we've put some of those things into place. As far as when it doesn't work as smoothly as I just described, we have academic conduct policies being updated. That's right now kind of being drafted by schools and departments, but I'm hoping to bring people together during our next AI task force meeting in January and try to think about that a little bit more together and maybe put some more concrete things together based on grade level and assignment.
The policy committee has a draft academic integrity policy that addresses some facets of the use of AI. So
excellent.
That'll come to the board.
Yeah.
Next time we meet on the 15th.
Yeah, that'd be
I
great.
think building out some regulations underneath that will be, good place for that committee to look at.
Yeah, so far, like for example, the high school humanities teachers were able to share what they were thinking, and we've been kind of working with that a little bit. So just on our side of things, we'll continue to try to put some ideas together.
Do we have the ability to customize the rule set logic for either School AI or Magic School to say, kind of tweak, like if a student asks it to do something that's outside the bounds of what we feel is appropriate to allow it to do, can we kind of toggle that logic, or is that set at the School AI level and it's one size fits all?
You actually have a lot of power to do that. Again, at least with the paid version. To go back to that essay example, pardon me if I pick on you, but if I'm the teacher and Eric's the student, he's trying to get the thing to write the essay for him. Right. You can generally program it so that it will deny that and then ask more follow-up questions or help the student plan something out. Again, if you go through the paid version, you get a lot more power and flexibility with that. Some teachers have been experimenting with the free version and having a little less success. But you do have quite a bit of power in how you structure that. Now, with that being said, the technology is evolving and students are smart and crafty and they like to try to beat the system. So if anything, sometimes it's kind of fun to see what they come up with in a way to try to get it to manipulate the agent to do what it wants.
Like a hackathon almost.
Kind of, yeah, but that's not always bad because then we're all kind of learning together. And then with both products, but especially School AI is strong in this, you can see trends and highlights of what's happening and you get a full transcript of the chat. So again, if Eric's saying, hey, I got to write this essay about why Thanksgiving is nice. Could you write it for me? I can go back and see that and be like, oh, Eric, maybe we should talk about this assignment some more, and try to coach him.
So you can attach like the transcript to the actual submission of work.
It's actually like a separate.
But but the teacher has access to both and can look and say, if something doesn't look right, they can go back and reference the transcript.
Yes.
To see what the interaction was.
Yes, and then there's tools through Google Docs too, where especially in secondary, if, you know, you can see how the document was edited and things like that. And again, I'm sticking to this essay example. It's just the easiest to explain, but there's so many other things you can do in terms of having conversations or brainstorming sessions, or I've seen teachers use it for book clubs as like an extra book club member or kind of the expert off to the side. So there's a lot of other things other than just things that create an academic product that has good use cases too. It really is.
It's very cool, but are the teachers all right with all this? I mean, this is a whole nother thing for them.
That's something we're trying to help out with. So some people rolled up both sleeves and got really excited about it and got to work. Other people have a little bit more, are a little bit more trepidatious about it. And again, totally understandable, because as a society, we don't know how we all feel about this yet either. It's not an easy answer. So one thing I found when I got here is that we're already ahead of a lot of places. I think a lot of places are kind of sticking their heads in the sand, or hoping that it'll pass by, or that they're trying to regulate it out of existence. And I think the openness and flexibility that I found here was really nice that it existed. So now I'm trying to build upon that. Yeah.
Feels like it could be a great asset to help have a more personalized teaching experience. Like going back to the essay example, different kids need different prompts to help get them back to center of what the actual request of the assignment is. And I would respond differently than Pam or Heather. And yeah, which a teacher can't do dynamically.
Right. No, it's a great tool.
Yeah.
It's like you have, 25 teaching assistants in the room with you.
Right.
So as a teacher, just through my own experience and the coaching I've done, it's an amazing tool, because I might be working with Eric on his Thanksgiving essay, and the rest of you guys don't have to sit here and wait for me to finish with him. And then you're just goofing around or getting distracted, or you're doing other homework. Like, you could just stay on task and keep working, and then I can get to each of you and help you with your work too. So it's a really neat tool for that.
I would assume that there's a way that you can also back into like an assessment tool as well. Like, that's kind of, knowing that, each kid might be absorbing the information differently, but they all have different types of command over it, and being able to figure out an assessment piece. And
Yeah.
making that piece easier for our teachers.
It could really help. So if you were to give some kind of especially for formative assessment, this is really useful, where students are just, you're learning what they know and they don't know, and you're coaching them. It's not like something that necessarily gets a grade, or like a big grade in the grade book. It could be really useful, because the School AI platform I'm a little bit more familiar with, but what they do is they'll group kids into like how well they did or where their strengths and weaknesses are on a task. So you could say, strong written response, need some help, maybe didn't understand the prompt. Then you can go and talk to those kids. So, if I'm working with students, I could visit with somebody and say, hey, you're doing great, good pat on the back. Maybe you can proofread this other kid's work. And then I can go back to Eric and start from scratch. Like, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a great essay.
Yeah, so that's the goal. So yeah, that actually really is a neat tool that can help with those kinds of assessments as well. And then teachers can work on the back end. It can help them create assessments, which is helpful, especially if you're like with all the testing and the prep that goes into that. You can have it craft AP style questions, or DBQs for AP US, or different math problems, or help drill math facts. So I know teachers are often scrambling to find things that you can individualize for a student, and you could write in, me for example, in elementary school could have really used help with some of those math facts, and maybe my teacher could have said, oh, he doesn't really understand the 12 table. Can you make something for him? And it could help me out. I know they don't teach math that way anymore, but that's just how some of us might remember it too. So yeah, I could talk about this all night.
No, sorry to get you off track.
No, I appreciate it. No. Any other questions or comments before I move on to communications?
Let me just add two things.
Oh, sure.
Is the pilot being equally initiated in all schools, or is that more useful at the high school than the middle school level?
We're going to enable it for everybody and kind of see where it goes. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one of the really nice pieces about working with Bill and his team, though, is when we have meetings on the AI task force, when we start talking about products and applications, we're able to really quickly put those into the pilot mode and make it accessible to the staff and students. So it's been a pleasure working together with him and his team to really take this from just concept into application.
And it's across all 4 schools.
That's the goal. Yeah. And to go back to Pam's question, maybe not everybody's going to want to participate, but I know there's at least 175 people that have the free version of Magic School, for example. So hopefully most of them will want to try it, and we can go from there. So Kevin, what were you going to say? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
just two things I would add. One, for the board, we're in the midst of planning our next long-range planning session. That'll take place late February, early March. And so building on the work of the AI task force and the presentation the long-range planning group had last year with Matt Mervis on AI, if you were there, remember, it was an introduction to the tools and just, for a lot of folks, me included, kind of mind-blowing possibilities, which I'll come back to in a second.
That was amazing.
It was really
Amazing.
super powerful. So this next session, we're inviting a group that represents higher ed, business, industry, experts, across fields to come and to talk to us about the impact of AI in their respective professions. And so we want to know, what are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What are the disruptions to the extent they exist? And what do you need from us in terms of preparation as we continue to think about our students' curriculum and what they need to have as they walk out the door. So I'm expecting we'll have a really robust panel and hopefully a well-attended session that will continue to inform our work. The potential that we all see with this, I've told this story to some people, like 9 years ago, Office Depot, Office Max showed up, and they had just entered into an exclusive partnership with IBM Watson, and they were looking for beta sites. And so we volunteered to be a beta site. And at the time, the promise with that technology was of personalized education. And so the idea was you could feed all kinds of information into Watson, and you could customize learning plans for kids. That project failed 9 years ago because the technology wasn't ready. What they learned quickly and we experienced in the pilot was that a lot of our information was still on paper, and there wasn't a meaningful, efficient way to get all the information on paper into Watson. And so with the new large language models, that problem's been solved. You can take a picture of something and upload it instantly. Today's problem for us as we're thinking about personalized learning is around safety and security of data. And so how do we work, the term du jour is walled garden. So how do you work inside a walled garden where you can upload data, that might be, sensitive or tied to individuals, keep it secure and get the full power of a large language model to really get to work, doing some, predictive production in service to kids and learning. And so I think, I suspect that, developers are working on this now, but, to me, that's where the frontier and the real promise is.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
I think it's kind of ironic to some extent, though, that it used to be the fear of AI was like the black box. But now if you have the black box that's de-identifying everything, that kind of takes that. It gives you a little bit more flexibility in terms of what type of information you can feed it if people can't get into it. So as the technology grows, the concerns, just change.
I'm curious though, and maybe this is too philosophical of a conversation, but as more and more information and data gets in there, like, is that potential for garbage in, garbage out kind of concept, it to me is concerning because it takes essentially an algorithm of all of this material and bases it on the frequency, bases it on how many eyeballs, bases it on the topic. And is there ever are there stopgaps in place to put measures in to allow kids to have an authentic experience of what is true that gives them citing sources, right? Like figuring out if it's actually a legitimate source, and how are they able to do that if everything that they're looking at is coming essentially from one source?
I have a whole slide about what we want to talk about with digital citizenship,
Yeah.
digital citizenship and digital literacy. So
Yeah.
that fits under that very well.
And those are the skills that they have to develop.
Yeah.
Because, the other term that I learned related to this that's popular is hallucination.
Right.
And so, these things spit out garbage. I had some personal experiences here in the last year where I was just playing around and, I'll give you a silly one. I was getting ready to give a speech to the National Honor Society. So I wanted to know from ChatGPT, there's some really notable National Honor Society alumni that were great public servants. The first one that came up was Margaret Thatcher. Right?
So you had
no.
to know that wasn't gonna work.
So to Bill's point and to really to the curricular implication here,
Yeah.
like we need to double down on some of those digital citizenship skills.
Yeah, and I always use the analogy, like as educators, we drop the ball on cell phones. We all put our heads in the sand collectively about that, and now, you know, we were not sure what to do about it, you know, and we have all different ways of doing it, and obviously our district's handling it one way, others are handling other ways, but just as a society, nobody quite knows what to do about screen time because we never took the time to learn about it when it was first being announced and rolled out, and then we never learned those skills. So now we have to learn them retroactively. My vision is that at least here and in surrounding communities where we can all kind of work together, we won't do that with AI. We can give kids a foundation where they can use it effectively and not fall into some of those pitfalls. So, yeah, thank you.
So all of the things, the Magic School, the School AI, Notebook, LM, they're all, we're using piloted or potentially piloting things for free. Is there?
For minimal cost, Gemini is free. Well, it's built into Google Suite, so we pay for it anyway, but it's not an additional cost. School AI was able to give us a really good price to get their training module. And then strangely enough, however they're marketing it right now, you pay for the training, but then you get the free product. So I wasn't going to complain. So we got that. And then Magic School's been a little bit different in that they were looking for more of a commitment. So I'm trying to get that straightened out. So we're working it out. But
And Gemini is part of our paid Google services. So it's included with our paid Google services.
I guess I was just wondering if there's down the line of budget implications or this is going to cost more money or you.
We're looking to make space for it, which we can discuss more another time.
I also shared with Bill that his predecessor was a master negotiator.
So the pressure's on.
I'm trying to learn the ropes, yeah, for sure. So, but we're doing all right, and we'll make room for it by we're actively looking for redundancies and other things that we can look to reduce or cut and make space for this stuff.
Right.
So, good question.
Cool. That's good.
Any other AI stuff, or do you guys want to move on a bit?
Right.
Again, like if you let me, I'll talk about this all night. So.
I just want to go. So right now we're at the point where the teachers are playing with it, but the kids aren't, correct?
Well,
I mean the kids are on their own, but in terms of like
we're not providing anything.
We're not providing a tool for
school day.
No.
Yes.
No, they're
Okay.
not at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not creating things like in that way.
Right.
It's not that we're not allowing it necessarily. That's what these guidelines are for. We're just not providing it for them.
No, that's what there was a semantic, that's what I meant to ask, that we're not providing an active tool for them at this point.
All right. So as far as communications task force goes, we had a meeting recently, and I had mentioned I had looked at Parent Square surveys from last year from the community, and then I discussed, it's in our plan that Fran and you guys put together that we would start moving toward using Parent Square as the main communications piece in the district. And it didn't sound like everybody had known or was ready to talk about that yet. So I administered another another survey to the staff to see where they were on this, because the only missing piece is that staff isn't really using Parent Square to communicate directly with parents. They're using it for announcements and for organizational pieces and mass mailings and things like that, but they're not using it for day-to-day communication. I don't know if that's where ultimately we're going to go yet, but I'm trying to gather some information so I can talk about it more with the communications task force and we can start to make some decisions. But staff's getting back to me about it. I've seen some of the survey results. Some people requested a meeting, so I'm trying to meet with them personally so we can talk through some of their questions and concerns about maybe making that move. I also reached out to some other districts. I'm from Meriden. I spoke with my counterpart Meriden, who had a lot to share about how Meriden recently moved over to Parent Square fully, which is something I experienced on the parent side of things. So now I'm learning about more from the administrator side of things, but we'll have more to share in January. That's when the next meeting is. As far as the website goes, I think we had a pretty productive session where we kind of workshopped what the site currently looks like. I know this has been an ongoing thing that we've worked on as a district. We had different groups and they gave some specific suggestions and feedback about different parts of the website. I brought that back to the webmasters and we did our own study of some of that work that was shared with us. And then things that, we saw in other district sites that we might want to model. And we're actually starting to work on that. We'll have a meeting next week. And one of the impetuses to get this going sooner rather than later is that we're currently hosting our site with Gaggle. I'm sorry, not Gaggle, Gabbert. I talk a lot about Gaggle too, but that's for another time. And Gabbert is owned by Parent Square, and Parent Square's migrating everybody in July
By
over,
July, we
over to Smart Site. So admittedly, this is my first year, there's a lot going on. I was hoping to kind of lay the groundwork, but we're going to move a little bit faster now, and I think that's probably for the best. So we're actually going to make some of these edits and changes sooner rather than later, so it'll make the migration more smooth. We won't have to fight with another third. I guess this will be the third migration in third within like maybe 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, so we'll be able to make that happen more smoothly by making some of the changes that were suggested to the website now.
And Lucille and I actually went to Parent Square to a conference to go over a lot of the back end changes that the system needs in order for us to make the migration. So with the front end piece is very, very important because that's what everyone sees. But Lucille and I were able to work on some of the back end pieces in the integration.
Yeah, and I've just been making a point to find other districts that use smart sites. And I know it's all template based and plug and play. You don't have to know a lot about website design to make it look good. And it shows. I mean, I don't know as much about the product as you do yet, but just the aesthetics of it are nice. And that was one of the overall feedback pieces was, can we make the website, a little shinier, but moreover, reorganize things a bit, improve the copy, make it easier to navigate, things like that. So the templates and the work through smart sites should really help take care of a lot of that.
Yes.
Will you guys be able to port over all of the Parent Square user profiles on the back end?
Yes, those are all. And one of the very nice things is that the Parent Square, what we're sending out in Parent Square actually can go into calendaring and can go into the website directly, as well as we can start leveraging some of the social media applications. We can choose which ones we want to leverage. So the messages we're sending out with Parent Square will not only update the website, but also some of the social media sites that we have. So that's part of the, sorry, you're going to get into the communication consolidation, but it integrates with the overall vision.
It'd be nice to have it all housed by the same vendor, so the same app developer, I should say. Cool. Any other questions about communication stuff at the moment?
So I think I know that you're talking to staff about moving, over to Parent Square, and you said you as a parent too. And I think that one of my always the curiosities or concern is I know that with Parent Square, it becomes like an email function, but there's also a text function. And so I just want, and I don't know how guidelines are set out, but understanding like responsiveness and expectations around responsiveness and not feeling like I don't want it to make it I would like to make it something that's easier for our teachers, but not for, teachers to feel that now they have to, automatically be responsive in the moment or in the second, especially if, when texting starts happening, you start doing it at odd hours and odd times, and just to be,
great point.
Just kind of to have an understanding about that, because that communications piece can, kind of make for having clear understandings helps, I think, in the relationship between parents and teachers and students and teachers.
For sure. The parents survey that was administered last year that I reviewed made it sound like Parent Square was their preference for going to Parent Square would be to consolidate everything, so they wouldn't have to search through multiple email inboxes or anything like that, just have it all in place.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very powerful tool for that. The teacher's concern was how can we make sure our availability is set up in a good balanced way. And I don't have all the answers to that just yet, but I just from my own experience as a parent, I've sent an email through Parent Square, a message through Parent Square to a teacher, one of my son's teachers, like at a late hour, just because it was in my mind. If I didn't send it, I was going to forget it. And they responded within 5 minutes. And I even wrote back, you don't have to respond that quickly. I just didn't want to forget when I went to bed what I wanted to ask you. So there'll definitely have to be some training around that and some expectations. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
So is the vision that all emails between a parent and a teacher would go through Parent Square and not to the Will PS?
Potentially, if that's what we want to do. Again, I'm not sure. I haven't figured out like what the response is yet. I haven't been able to speak with all the parties that I want to. But I know that was kind of the intention when I got here. So I at least want to carry that part through and find out if that's what we still want to do. So we'll get to that decision when we're ready. I think I covered that. All right, excellent. All right, so just as far as digital learning goes, and this is kind of where we'll start to wrap things up. To speak to Heather's point, digital literacy and digital citizenship are more important now than ever. Even outside of AI, society as a whole is having trouble dealing with the amount of information that we have every day and just what is going to help you make good decisions for yourself and your family and what is distracting. So we're trying our best to teach students more about this all through all our schools, all our grade levels. So part of what we do is just kind of the basic academic skills, typing, using Google Suite, setting up email, but also more important, kind of higher level thinking tasks, in terms of conducting ethical research, making sure that they're sourcing their information from good sources and presenting it in a way that will help build understanding of topics rather than necessarily get distracting in terms of just opinions. So just those, and this is a cross-disciplinary thing, but it's definitely something that the LLC is especially suited to teach students. We're also obviously talking about AI use, as we mentioned, and especially in the middle school, we have our cyber civics curriculum that does talk a lot about social media literacy as well. I've also participated in a few panel discussions about online safety at Cider Mill. That's something that they've really made an effort to try to share with their families this year. We did it at open house. We had a separate thing, and I think that was a really nice way to just kind of expose parents and other community members to, excuse me, just everything that's out there to try to help maybe people who aren't as tech savvy or don't know as much or just have concerns learn more about what they need to know for their students. I mentioned the AI part a lot already and the academic skills and media literacy, but just highlighting what some of the things that are happening at Miller Driscoll. They're learning to use Chromebooks through typing.com, which is an app that we paid for that helps them improve keyboarding skills, but also overall computing skills. They're reading a lot of digital books through Epic, so they're exposed to that sort of text, and they're actually publishing some really neat narratives on Book Creator, and those are some of the things that the teachers have been sharing with me. They're very proud of, and I wanted to highlight. I did mention some of the stuff about Cider Mill, but one thing that they have going on that you can kind of see to the right is the students starting to work on Hour of Code, which is something that I participated in just for fun, even as a teacher with my students, and then in my own family. It's actually really neat. If you haven't heard of it, it's just challenging kids at different levels to spend an hour coding and learn a little bit more about how it really is kind of a poetry and a type of digital language that can be really immersive and instructive. And you can kind of see Mark Zuckerberg in that picture. I'm not sure if she's talking to him or if she's just reading about him, but that obviously, having code icons on there is helpful too. So that's all kind of part of the program.
Is that the Hour of Code? Is that a paid application or is it a?
No, Hour of Code is like a nationwide thing where you can participate. There's different websites and teachers can kind of sign up their classes for it. It's not a paid thing.
Cider Mill.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think part of that shared experience through the library.
So so I can go home and sign up and is it a separate program from what, are you doing it? All right.
Yeah.
I'm behind.
No, well, my kids are older than you.
Some of them.
They'll send you the information.
Yeah, no, but we should,
Yes,
I don't know how many other parents know about it and it's cool to know.
Yeah.
You do 2 hours of code, one at home, one at school.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd much rather them do that than watch the iPad for another hour.
Right.
Is that?
So if I can encourage them to do it and they like it, I don't even know if they like it. I'd love to hear. But,
Yeah, for younger students, they have, the language where you can drag and drop and kind of create paths for your dog to get to the park and things like that.
Similar to like the Scratch Junior and things, those programs.
Exactly. And then obviously we have coding at the middle school as a class and, throughout the high school, students are using it for other things. So there's kids that have more facility with it, but it's a neat way to kind of introduce it to, especially the younger kids.
Yeah, great.
Cool. So that was some stuff on digital learning updates. More at the high school, I mentioned the other 3 schools a bit, but you might have saw them as we were walking in, we have new podcasting studios that were built and we're starting to equip. So that class is expanding enrollment. And that picture actually is from a field trip. We went, Ken Dinaj and I took 15 students to WNPR in Hartford yesterday. And that's Frankie Graziano, who was the host of the Wheelhouse, and he does a lot of sports and some other stuff about politics for them. And he gave us a tour of the whole studio. We met the producers. We saw all of the pro level equipment that they use. We got some ideas for what we might like to have. Students asked a lot of great questions. They were very interested. And I've gotten to know some of the students, and they're all underclassmen. So this is, they're all freshmen and sophomores. So they're just learning this stuff now. And Frankie himself said, you guys are like 6 or 7 years ahead of me because I didn't really get into this until the tail end of college. So it's like, if you love it, keep doing it because it can really lead you places and you can really fall in love with the work. So it was a really neat opportunity that Ken organized for them. So needless to say, we're having some expanding enrollment in that program. So we've got some new spaces built. And we're going to be having, we had a WEF grant to equip it. So that stuff's starting to be put together too. I know Fran already talked about this a few weeks ago, but we have the new robotics classes that are approved. And we also are planning out the labs. Dr. Korn is doing a lot of that work with Fran. So I can't speak to it as much as I'd like because that's kind of their project, but I know that it's in the works. And from what I've heard, it sounds like it's going to be really impressive. Students will be able to do a lot of neat stuff. As far as ViewSonics go, that's an example of one right there on the cart. And a lot of the, and Eric can probably, he will speak a lot more to how this was set up. But as far as the training, which is kind of more what I was trying to help out with, we installed the ViewSonics here and at the middle school. And we had a trainer come in, she spent a day here and a day there. We trained the trainers and they've been disseminating amongst, IO meetings and team meetings and ILTs and things like that to try to get people to get the hang of the boards. And we've also distributed digital resources to help with that as well. So that's still ongoing and it's kind of a learning process. But having attended the training myself, I was really envious I didn't have this board in the classroom because I probably would have used it a lot. I could do a lot of really cool stuff. So we're really looking forward to expanding our capabilities with the ViewSonics. I think that's pretty much everything I have. Did anyone have any other questions or anything else they wanted to ask?
I was just in the high school the other day, so I saw some, potential spaces for the robotics, and it seems that there's some excitement going on about that. So it'll be nice when some more decision points are made and we can have that at the table. And then even with the boards, just some really, there was, first of all, the school was, a very happy, chatty, conversant place, and the cafeteria was buzzing, and there was no phones out. And it was just a very, lovely experience. But in addition to that, some kids would say, oh, I used to take pictures of the board or whatever, but now like teachers are saying like, oh, well, we have these boards now and we can just like grab the shot of the board and we can just feed it out to the whole class. So it's like all the, technology fixes and all the, I ran into a few teachers that were discovering all the interesting and fun things that they can do with the boards. So it was great to see.
Yeah, I think we're off to a good start. And Eric will speak more about how the other school's going to be getting the boards installed too.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to give a quick update on some of the district technology on what we've done. And really on IT, what we're trying to do is we're trying to support the work of the district and the work that Bill's doing in the classroom with and all of our teachers and students in the district. So we're really trying to be in the back end to do that support, make sure the systems are up and running, automating when possible, and maintaining all the infrastructure. The big projects that have gone in this year with the ViewSonic boards, we had 166 units. We completed the high school, we completed the middle school. Miller Driscoll, we have 45 more units to go in, which are budgeted for next year. And then there are 62 left at Cider Mill to be replaced for next year. And so that's part of the budget to get the entire district onto a unified ViewSonic system. We upgraded laptops and docking stations at Middlebrook and Genesis this year. So they're all on upgraded technology. We're on a 4-year renewal process with the laptops, and we're really leveraging those. The ViewSonics are going to be a really neat tool to use with the laptops because laptops are tablets and they also have a stylus attached to them. And with the ViewSonics, you can walk around your classroom and actually work and interact with your boards. And so that's really a powerful new tool so that teachers not stuck in one location working from the front of the classroom. They can move around now. We're able to upgrade 2 of the high school labs, the art labs. There are 2 art labs that are with IMAX that are the latest versions that we could get. At the art department has really been leveraging as well as a music program to use. And then the world language has all new machines in there that are being used by the world language department as well. Chromebooks, we roll out Chromebooks every year in grades 3 and 5. And we rolled out another 570 units to all of our incoming 3rd and 5th graders, and then 40 units for testing down at Miller Driscoll, and then 140 iPads were deployed at Miller Driscoll. One of the things I really want to compliment Brian Enos and Kathy and her team down at Miller Driscoll, because as we were looking at the iPad purchases and how they were being used, what we found over the summer is that by being a little more creative in our deployment of the iPads, we were able to use some of the funds that we were looking at, and we were able to redirect those into some of the ViewSonic boards, which were more impactful instructionally. So it was really nice to be able to work with them and sort of look at that and find a way that would really meet more of the instructional need, as well as leveraging those iPads. So that was a neat project to work with them on. And then for presentation spaces at Cider Mill, we were able to upgrade the gym for presentations. Middlebrook has the cafeteria and then the professional library here. We have one more space at Middlebrook that we really would like to upgrade, but we have standardized our presentation spaces across the district. So if you're presenting in the high school or middle school or Cider Mill or Miller Driscoll, it's a standard presentation space and equipment in all of those areas. We're upgrading our video surveillance and camera systems across the district. And then we have a really interesting UPS pilot program that we started here at the high school that is using a UPS, which is a very large battery, to provide battery backups for our computers. But as part of the pilot, we're working to connect it with Greenbank and with Eversource to use it almost as you as a generator and sort of for on-demand needs for power. So it's a project that actually the Greenbank has grant funding, E-Rate has grant funding, and Eversource actually has funding that they will pay the district for use of that electricity in times of need, usually over the summer when there's a high heat and they need to do that. So if you have an electric car, for instance, and you plug in, Eversource will give you funds back off of your electric bill. So this is very similar to that project. And so we're in the middle of that pilot. So over the next 6 months, we'll hopefully have some good details and can report back on where that project is.
That's great. The company that we're working with is Cadenza, and they're a Wilton company. The battery technology they have is incredible. So there's a lot of promise here.
What are the longer term potentials there for budget and
so yeah, I think that the opportunity, because these things we'll have to do a little show and tell at some point so you can actually see the actual battery, but it's there's pretty significant expansion capability, and so you could, I think theoretically at least, create a full generator size battery backup that could potentially power a whole school, and then whatever the power trade-off would be that you would give back to Eversource could be revenue generating at some scale.
So that's or offset. I mean, with the programs that we're looking at right now, it looks like we'll be revenue neutral within about 5 or 6 years on with the implementation costs, and the lifespan of the equipment is 15 years. So there should be offsets available after the implementation. Sorry. So
Heather wants to start a Bitcoin mining
Bitcoin.
It's another potential revenue generating exercise.
Right.
Yeah, so it is. It's interesting,
No, yeah.
and it's kind of we had a meeting with folks a year ago or so, and so it's taken a while to get going, but there's real potential, and because they're a local group, they're interested in working with us. I don't think we might be the only school that they're doing any kind of pilot work with. So there's a good relationship that's emerging here.
Are we still buying electricity from the grid to power the UPS? Like, is there any way to use solar to power the battery?
You could use any source that generates electricity to power that. We don't have that happening here as part of our pilot. And the solar project is sort of, it's a unique project in and of itself. So right now, where we have this UPS, it's here in the high school. The batteries will actually run our full data center for almost 7 hours. As part of the pilot, it also is connected into the generator. So once it's fully connected to Eversource, Eversource will actually pay us for the use of the electricity when we push that back to the grid. So it's a fascinating concept. And if this pilot goes well, we have the opportunity to put some of these in at Cider Mill and at Middlebrook, where we don't have any generators. And one of the big pieces we have is when we lose power, we have about 15 minutes of power right now in those buildings. And then we lose all of our switching. And you say we lose the switches, it's not a big deal, but our phone system, our life safety systems, all of our communication is based on the switching we have, our door access control systems. So when we lose the switches, we really, it can be problematic in the building. So by being able to put some of these larger UPSs in the different closets, we actually can get 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of use of those. So if we have an incident during the school day, school doesn't have to necessarily close. So there's some potential.
We haven't brought this up at T-SNAP at all, actually.
No, the recommendation I've made just in the context of that conversation was to kind of take the proposed high school generator off and let's look at what I was thinking about with the town was we need to look at kind of disaster response and generator support separately.
Yeah.
And within the context of that conversation, this would figure prominently as one possible solution.
Absolutely. Really cool. I would love to see that.
Yeah, me too.
We'll set that. Would you? Yeah, fine. Yes. We can set that up sometime at your convenience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we put in an additional new firewall in the district, which increased our capacity. So the firewall was twice as robust as the previous firewall we had. We've upgraded our bandwidth with CEN, so we have more bandwidth now. And then we have upped our wireless speeds for all of our staff and students here in the district because of the upgrade we made to the firewall this summer. So that's been very, very good. And then for our phone system updates, we went through all of our phone lines and we were able to remove 47 lines and also some lines that were running between Miller Driscoll and Town Hall, which is going to be enable us to save a fairly considerable sum for the budget for next year. Part of the phone system updates, though, is we're also looking at the town is looking to go to a new phone system. And so we're looking at other phone systems as well as the possibility of just reusing our phone system. Our phone system's paid for, it's working. We have, I believe it's 585 phones here in the district, so it's not an inconsequential cost for us to move to a new system. So we're looking at all of those options and we're looking at what the cost is to just bring the current phone system, over here. So we'd still be on the current phone system, but see how we can still interface with the town.
Is that because it's centrally hosted in servers in Town Hall?
That's right.
There's one server in Town Hall, which is the main administrative server. And then we have 5 Avaya servers here in the district that support each of the buildings. So it really would be just taking that one piece of equipment, bringing it over here and just reconfiguring it so all of the town phones aren't routed through that system anymore.
Yeah. When the project was first initiated, it was a joint project with the town led by the former town IT director. And so a lot of the control and management lived with the town. And in the last year, we've kind of separated and reallocated responsibilities. And so I just think that the town municipality might be in a different place than we are in terms of needs and the state of the technology at this point.
Yeah, if our stuff works great, why rip and replace?
The system we're in Europe, I believe 7 in this phone system, so it does have a number of years left of life expectancy. And then we've also went through and we've looked at our copier contract. One of the things we've done over the last few years is we've pulled out individual printers from Miller Driscoll and Cider Mill and Middlebrook. And so we're doing a true up here in January of 2025 where we're adjusting our usage and the copiers and printers that are under contract. So there's going to be an adjustment in January and some credits, and we'll be able to carry that over into the budget cycle for next year. And we're in year 3 of that 5-year contract. And so those are really some of the projects that we've been involved in here in district technology that are really to support, the mission of the district.
I think it's great to have you both here so
Yeah,
everybody can really
really
hear
a
and see
lot.
like what it takes
To make this whole.
to make it all work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty great.
really try to take a team approach toward everything, so, if there's something I can help Eric with, and vice versa, we try to do that as much as we can.
Great.
Good.
Absolutely. No, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Likewise.
And, I'm very excited to have you with us in the district.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And just to put some of this together, you think back, like I've only been here since July and all this stuff's happened since I've been here. So it's really exciting. Really impressed by it. So
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Next up is a proposal for pre-K tuition increase.
We just wanted to bring this information to the board. Periodically, we review the tuition prices for pre-K.
Sure.
Bernadette has and Kathy, who very plugged into the preschools around Wilton. We don't change the prices annually. We have in the last couple of years, and then I think prior to last year might have been something right before the pandemic. So you'll see when you look down the list, we're very intentionally competitive. As you know, I think Pam can speak to very thoroughly. We run a very, very high quality preschool that is also very highly in demand. We could add, new classrooms tomorrow because of the demand. We don't have the space to do that, but we could. There's always a waiting list, and the program under Bernadette's stewardship continues to strengthen. She's eyeballing a proposal now. We're just waiting for the state to issue an RFP to become the local birth to provider. So, she's got a real clear vision of how that program needs to grow, and we're always strengthening the curriculum.
Kevin, remind me, is enrollment, is anybody living anywhere eligible, or is it preferential to people who live in Wilton, or is it?
Well, it's a Wilton preschool.
It's a Wilton
because it's designated for Wilton residents. And the purpose of our preschool is partially in response to our child find obligation under the law. And so, we're obligated to serve children with special needs beginning at age 3. And we choose to do that through this integrated preschool program. Years ago, the model was very different. And so, with a change in leadership, a different approach, a different vision, preschool program. And so, we provide for free through, tax dollars, those services to children with IEPs, and then we invite typical peers to apply, and those are the tuition paying families that participate in the program.
And the balance is usually, there's a tipping point,
50-50.
correct?
The best practice is
Yeah.
50-50, and so we, you'll if you watch the enrollment reports that come to the board as part of the board packets once a month, you'll see. Because students with disabilities age into the program. So we start at a 50-50 ratio, and then in some classrooms that ratio sways just as we take more kids in. So we, this year I think we started with 82 or 83 kids. We'll end the year probably close to 100, and that's pretty typical.
Total enrollment?
In the preschool, correct.
Because once they turn 3 and they're eligible for with an IEP, then they can go. They can leave the preschool, the mainstream preschool, and they can go to Miller Driscoll. So they just have to they have to turn 3 before they can go.
Got it.
Yeah, so we, provide a range of services, including like itinerant speech services. So kids will come and they'll participate in that, and maybe not in the full program. So there's a whole a suite of offerings that come through the preschool program to serve our kids. It's been great, and they've done, and they continue to do really solid programming. In recent years, they created a bridge program from the preschool into the kindergarten program. So they run the summer program that relates to that. And I think, sitting here today, the feedback from the families the comfort that comes in the form of the staff, and then access to the serves to just provide a really solid education to those kids in their earliest, most vulnerable years. And we're doing it particularly with the typical peers that come through at a very good bargain comparatively. So we're going to continue to do that. So you'll see.
Well, a lot of the preschools were very anxious when Miller just decided to have this preschool, because we knew it was kind of coming, because the state had sort of mandated that this was going to be down the road. So all of us were like, because they're going to take, obviously, people are going to want, especially if they have siblings in Miller Driscoll, they're going to want their 3-year-old to go as well. I mean, it all panned out pretty well, and it sort of evened itself out. But at first, there was a lot of anxiety amongst the directors of the other schools that this was going to just take all our kids. It didn't end up that way, but
that's where my kids went. 3s and 4s.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's a great program.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Especially, I mean, even just
A
the
lot of
fact that
talent.
finding a program that runs till 3:30 twice a week is huge.
Yes.
I mean, that.
It meets a lot of needs.
Yeah.
It meets the IEP need, it meets the modeling for the typical, it meets the times. It's just a great program and a lot of talent in that building.
So what, 100, so of the 100 kids enrolled, they're all paid for in some way, shape, or form, either through state funds or through private, or the half of them?
Through local taxpayer funds.
Okay.
Right, just so that the students that have IEPs, are, it's a free appropriate public education, just like it is for everybody in kindergarten forward. And then for the typically developing peers, the non-IEP students, those are, the parents writing checks.
Okay.
So I wanted to make you aware. I'll have this on the consent agenda the next time around.
Great. Thank you. Just moving to, we have two policies that kind of walk together.
This is the
Yes.
portion of the meeting where your eyes can roll into the back of your head. So I will not go into the substance of the policy. If you really do sleep tonight, just either one and start reading. Let me just tell you what the story is. So what you're looking at is in total 4 policies. We have for students 5145.44 and 5145.44B. Those are both Title IX, prohibition of sex discrimination and sexual harassment. One set are the regulations that reflect the federal regulations from 2020, and then the set B are the reflect the newest regulations as of was adopted in April of 24 and enforced beginning August 1. And then you have the employee version, 418.113, 418.113. Why do you have 4 sets? In April of 2024, the U.S. Department of Education issued the 2024 Title IX Final Rule on Sex Discrimination, including sex-based harassment, with an implementation date of August 1st. Revised regulations redefine sex-based harassment and broaden the scope of sex discrimination to include sex stereotyping, sex characteristics, pregnancy or related conditions, sexual orientation, and gender identity. So this broadened the protections for LGBTQ kids and employees. In response to those changes, a number of states' attorney general and other organizations sued the U.S. Department of Education. So in 15 states, federal courts have granted injunctions concerning the enforcement of the new rules by the Department of Education and the implementation by colleges and universities. In addition, Judge John Brooms of the U.S. District Court, this is why it matters to us, so pardon me here. John Brooms of the U.S. District Court for the District of Kansas granted an injunction to Moms for Liberty, Young America's Foundation and Female Athletes United, blocking the enforcement of the new Title IX rules in any schools attended by the children of interest groups members. While the groups had initially sought an injunction that applied to every county where members lived, So currently there are 670 universities that are enjoined by the overlapping injunctions, and then there are scores of schools. Cider Mill and Miller Driscoll were listed on the July 26, 2024 Moms for Liberty list that was presented in that lawsuit, Kansas versus the U.S. Department of Education. So for Cider Mill and Miller Driscoll, if there is a Title IX complaint, we have to use the 2020 policy, so that the initial set. For Middlebrook in the high school, we get to use the new ones. So right now, we're carrying 4 sets. Make sense? So
Yes and no.
okay. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's exactly the right answer.
That's really insane.
And sorry, so just the reason that Miller Driscoll and Cider Mill was because
Yes.
what was the connection to the organization?
there is a parent or multiple parents here in this community with children at one or both of those schools that are members of the Moms for Liberty group that are part of this lawsuit where the injunction is in force.
Okay, so it's not just about being a member; they had to be listed as on the complaint.
Correct.
Okay.
And so
But if their kids go to Middlebrook next year,
they have to. I'm not sure that. I don't know if there's there is or was a deadline by which you have to be a party to this one, or if the list can continue to grow. I should look at that. It might have been as of August 1st. So, but there's a website that maintains this, and you can see there's I don't know, a dozen lists, a dozen different dates, some colleges, universities, and so the list grew over time. This was the list, the date that we were on the list, our 2 schools. So that's why we have multiple sets of policies here. With the employee policy for the 2020 version, I did take the opportunity to go back and update the language because our former policy did not correspond to Shipman and Goodwin's recommended language coming out of that time frame. So what I've done, just working with our council, is to ensure that reflects their model policy language all the way through on all of them. So that's the only other kind of material change you would see inside these policies. So you can read them at your leisure. To the best I can answer questions, I'll try.
how do we typically communicate this with the teachers and staff of the buildings in terms of how their response to a complaint or how their particular actions could be violating one of these policies? And because we have 2 standing policies, how confusing that could potentially be for our teachers and staff.
Yes, so per our council's recommendation, we did update to include a reader's note.
Okay.
But really, if working primarily through Maria's office,
Okay.
If there was a concern or complaint that came forward, and actually this has happened, she kind of takes the information, and then her next call is to Jessica, and Jessica directs, is it this policy and procedure, or is it something else? And then we follow. It's a very prescriptive regulation in terms of how to investigate a complaint, and they're not the same. And so we have to be clear about which set we're following. In terms of notification, these policies are contained in the notices, the various faculty rooms and things like that. And then when a complaint comes up, we just we provide training annually to our staff. The staff are the administrative staff to make an initial judgment about whether this is whatever the complaint may be. Fall under the Title IX regulation or something else, a complaint against the school, bullying. Generally speaking, when complaints emerge, it's either bullying or falls under Title IX. And I think in 10 out of 10 times that question comes from the administrator to Maria, and if she can't tell you, she'll call Jessica. We'll get the right answer, and then that's how we'll proceed, and we'll notify the complainant what the options are.
Back to Heather's point, there's an annual training for staff on Title IX.
There's an annual training for administrators.
For administrators.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then annual notification.
And an annual notification
about
to
existence of the policy.
Existence of the policy. Okay.
We have staff that move between schools too, right? As part of their job.
Yeah,
So they could be subject to a single employee could be subject to 2 different.
theoretically.
And, you know, this, with a change in administration, this could all change again.
Yes, so that's the punchline here, and we should anticipate that it'll probably.
Yes, that'll probably change again this spring.
Right, but for now.
But for now.
This is the law on the land.
So, you know, this will come back as a second read in 2 weeks. So if it's between now and then anybody has any questions, you know, feel free to email them and put them on the question document and then also get answers. And future business and information, we have a Thursday, December 19th Board of Education meeting. And then we won't meet again until January 9th in the new year. And then just for everybody to have on their calendars, January 9th, you know, we'll kick off the new year with the budget presentation. And then workshops will be on the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th, respectively, at 6 p.m. And comments from the public. Hearing and seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:24. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
What time is the thing tomorrow night?
It's a lot.
I know, right?
Recording in progress.